Imagine you've been waiting all month for something huge, an XRP ETF that could change the game. Now, I was so sure that we would be popping champagne by now, celebrating XRP finally hitting Wall Street. But at the last minute, everything fell apart. The launch that I was so hyped for, it was poof, gone, delayed without warning. Now, here is the kicker. Out of all of that disappointment came an even bigger surprise, one that might put XRP in the spotlight in ways that we never expected. Let me set the scene. It's early October, and I'm an XRP holder just like many of you guys. The crypto community, it was buzzing, right? We had not one, not two, but 4 XRP spot ETF applications lined up for a decision. Dates circled on the calendar, October 18th, 19th, 22nd, and 23rd. It felt like we were on the cusp of a historic moment. I'm talking major validation for XRP, the kind that could open the floodgates of new investors. A spot ETF, by the way, is basically a stock market fund that holds actual XRP. It's like a shortcut for everyday people and big institutions to invest in XRP without having to mess around with crypto wallets. It's a huge deal for mainstream adoption. So here I am, counting down the days, checking the news constantly, imagining the celebration tweets. Then, out of nowhere, the US government shuts down. Yeah. If you're not familiar, a government shutdown is when the lawmakers can't agree on a budget, so many federal agencies literally run out of funding and close their doors for a while. And guess which agency had to hit pause? The SEC. The very folks who needed to approve those XRP ETFs. Talk about brutal timing. One moment we're at the finish line and the next moment the referee left the stadium. Suddenly, the SEC was operating on a skeleton crew, only handling absolute emergency. The division that reviews new ETFs was basically offline. Now, I remember refreshing the SEC's website and seeing absolutely nothing. No updates, no rulings, just radio silence. It felt like planning was a huge party and then the venue just cancelled it at the last minute. Right? For XRP believers, it was such a bummer. Right? Weeks passed with no word. By the end of October, our high hopes had fizzled into frustration. No ETFs, no clarity, nothing but uncertainty. But here is where things get interesting. I didn't give up. I kept digging for any scrap of information. And just when it felt like all hope was lost, I stumbled on something that blew my mind. I came across a post from a journalist that I follow. This is Eleanor. She hosts the Crypto in America show, and she uncovered a twist in the plot. Right? It turns out that one of these ETF applications, or applicants I should say, this is a company that's called Canary Capital, wasn't about to just sit and wait forever. They actually got quite clever. While the government was still doing the hurry up and wait kind of thing, Canary updated their ETF application paperwork. And here is the genius part. They removed a clause called the delaying amendment. Now, I know that sounds super technical and boring, but it's actually pretty huge. In plain English, that clause is basically you telling the SEC, hey, we'll wait for your official thumbs up before we launch. But by removing it, Canary was effectively saying, you know what? If you don't actively stop us, we're going to go live on our own schedule. This was a pretty bold move. I was like, wait, can they do that? And apparently the answer is yes. There's a rule that if you file the paperwork without the delaying clause, it becomes automatically effective after 20 days by default, unless the SEC intervenes. So Canary essentially started a 20-day countdown clock. And get this, that sets their XRP ETF up to possibly launch on November 13th. So mark your calendars, folks, because November 13th could be the day that XRP finally gets an ETF trading on the market. Now, before we all start dreaming of rocket ships and moon parties, I do need to hit pause for a crucial message here. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, deep breath, and let's continue with that reality check in place. So, November 13th is looking like a beacon of hope right now. But let's talk about details. For Canary's plan to work, there's a couple of things that need to happen. First, the exchange that will list this ETF, we're talking the Nasdaq here, has to give their approval by processing something called a Form 8-A. That's basically Nasdaq saying, yep, we're ready to list these ETF shares for trading. Now, if Nasdaq signs off, and if the SEC doesn't swoop in at the last minute with some objections, then boom, we have liftoff on the 13th. I'll be honest here, I had to read that twice to just believe it. After weeks of nothing, suddenly there's a real date on the horizon. People on X, were freaking out, in a good way of course, because let's think about it. Canary found a loophole, or rather, used an existing rule to sidestep, the endless waiting game that the SEC like to pull. And it's kind of like they found a secret backdoor into the club while the bouncer, that's the SEC, was distracted by something shiny. And Canary wasn't alone in getting crafty. They and another firm, Bitwise, actually pulled off a rather similar move for other crypto ETFs just a few days ago. Right? If you had blinked, you might have missed it. But earlier this week, ETFs for Litecoin, Solana, and even Hedera all launched quietly using this exact strategy. There was no big fanfare or explicit kind of SEC approval. No, they just went auto effective after 20 days because the SEC was essentially out of office during the shutdown. Incredible, right? It's like almost like I guess these companies said, fine, if you won't give us an answer, then we'll make our own green light. Now, I should mention, this isn't some rogue maneuver outside of the law. It is totally allowed within existing regulations. In fact, a former SEC commissioner named Paul Atkins even kind of gave a nod of approval to this approach. He basically signaled that companies, taking advantage of automatic routes are doing nothing wrong. And honestly, given the circumstances, who can actually blame them? Right? When your referee goes missing, you just have to play on. So, with Canary leading the charge, you can bet that other big players with XRP ETF dreams are watching closely. We might see Bitwise, 21 Shares, Grayscale, maybe even Wisdom Tree and others decide to follow Canary's example. So if one team can break through the line, then why not all of them? Right? I can just imagine the scramble in some of these boardrooms. Like, hey, Canary's doing it. We don't want to be left behind. Let's go. Right? There's a real chance that November could turn into the showdown with multiple XRP ETFs hitting the market around the same time that we thought October would be. That is, if the SEC continues to play nice, or, of course, the government shutdown lasts longer than many expect. Maybe they'll just stay on the sidelines, with a bit of hope. By this point, I was practically buzzing with the excitement that crypto Twitter was feeling. But I'm also kind of neutral skeptic here. It comes with the territory in crypto, right? And apparently, I'm also not alone. Enter Eric, right? Now, if you don't know him, he's a senior ETF analyst at Bloomberg and kind of a big deal in the ETF world. Now, Eric, he threw a little bit of cold water on all of the hype, which honestly, I do appreciate from time to time. He pointed out that when those Solana and those other altcoin ETFs launched using this trick, their issuers had been in constant contact with the SEC behind the scenes. That back and forth gave them confidence that the SEC was basically okay with it. But in the case of these XRP ETF filings, Eric hasn't seen the same kind of engagement with the regulators. The translation is, the teams are trying to launch XRP funds might be going a little bit blind, right? They don't have quite the same nod from the SEC. So yeah, it's fine, like, the Solana folks did it. So he's a bit skeptical. And are these XRP ETF issuers really prepared to go live, or are they just jumping the gun? There are some questions to be answered here. Hearing that, it kind of gave me pause. Right, the last thing that I want is to get all hyped up for November 13th, only to see the last minute rug pull from the SEC, like the SEC popping up saying, nope, not so fast. Now, it would be like, I guess it would be like being at the airport ready for a vacation and then hearing your flight's delayed. You're excited, but you are bracing yourself for some disappointment, I guess, just in case. Still, even Eric did admit that Canary's approach is bold and probably worth a shot. And I have to say, I respect that. Sometimes you do have to take a calculated risk to make some progress, right? Now, if nobody pushes the boundaries, we might just be stuck waiting forever. I should also note that the XRP community hasn't lost its enthusiasm through all of this either. In fact, some industry voices are already salivating at the potential that is here. The chief investment officer of Bitwise, 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘, went on record saying that the XRP community, the so-called XRP army, will smash buy this ETF, will smash buy this ETF if it launches. And he even predicted that a spot XRP fund could swell to $1 billion market cap within just a few months of launch. That's a pretty bold claim. And just one guy's opinion, it's not gospel, of course. But it does show how much excitement and pent-up demand there might be that is out there. So, where does this leave all of us? Well, by all indications, the next couple of weeks are going to be absolutely pivotal for XRP. We've essentially got a second shot at an ETF debut, thanks to this clever little end run around the red tape. Now, if November 13th comes and we see that first trade of an XRP ETF on Nasdaq, well, it's going to be one for the history books, a major milestone for crypto adoption. It could open the doors to a wave of new investors who've been curious about XRP but didn't want the hassle of dealing with crypto exchanges. And frankly, after all of the drama that we've all been through with XRP, the long court battle with the SEC to being passed over while Bitcoin and Ether got their ETFs, an XRP ETF, it would feel like vindication. Now, I want to take a quick detour on something that this whole saga reminded me of, because in crypto, you've always got to be prepared for the unexpected. Now, whether it's regulatory delays or exchanges freezing up during big news, having multiple backup plans is going to be key. Now, one strategy that I live by is keeping accounts on multiple exchanges just in case. Think of this as like having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C for when you need to trade or withdraw funds. Now, you never know when one exchange might go down, and usually it happens at the worst possible moment. Now, I've learned that the hard way in past bull runs. These days, I'm on pretty much every exchange. Things like, Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, Blowfin, BitGet, LBank, you name it, I'm probably on it. And here's full disclosure. I have affiliate links for all of the exchanges that I use on my website. And those links, of course, help the channel here, and they cost you nothing extra. But I do genuinely use all of these crypto exchanges that I list on the website. I only list the things that I actually use. It gives me peace of mind that if one platform has some issues, then I have alternatives ready to go. Seriously, being caught unprepared is just not fun. So consider setting up some of those backup options for yourselves. Also, if you're looking for a community to ride out these ups and these downs with, then we've got a free educational Discord server linked in the description. It's basically our little crypto family. Now, whenever news like this breaks, we're in there dissecting it. We're sharing the strategies and sometimes just memeing through the chaos. So if that sounds like your kind of scene, come in, right? We'd love to have you there. All right, let's get back to the main storyline, right? We're now in a sort of calm before the storm, right? The ETF saga, it took a bit of a wild turn, but it is not over. In fact, it might just be hitting the most exciting chapter. Now, I'm hopeful, but I'm also cautious, right? hopeful because, for the first time in a little while now, we actually have a concrete path to an XRP ETF that doesn't actually rely on someone at the SEC waking up on the right side of the bed. But we have to be cautious here because, as we've learned, nothing is guaranteed in crypto or in life. The SEC could still throw a wrench in the works, or maybe Nasdaq finds an issue during the listing process. Now, we just don't know all the answers yet. But the fact that companies are pushing this hard, it tells me that the demand and the determination are stronger than ever. XRP holders, well, we've been through a lot, haven't we, right? If you've held XRP for a few years, then you know the roller coaster, the crazy ups, the gut-wrenching downs, the lawsuit, the FUD, you name it. This ETF journey is just the latest ride. Whatever happens in November, one thing is going to be clear. The crypto industry is done waiting politely. We've seen firms use every legitimate method to move forward, with or without a nod from the regulators. In a way, that actually makes me even more prouder to be in this space, because we innovate, we adapt, and we keep pushing forward. So when someone asks me, do you really think an XRP ETF will happen? My answer is now, yes, absolute yes, right? And maybe sooner than we maybe all think, right? Maybe by the time that you're watching this, or maybe there'll be even more news, right? Now, I'm optimistic, right? But I'm also ready for whatever comes next. If it launches, you'll probably hear me cheering from the rooftops, or at least loudly on YouTube. And if it doesn't, well, we're going to adapt again, and we'll find another way, just like Canary did. Either way, it feels like we're on the verge of something big, and I'm going to be here to witness it. So if you found this useful, informative, entertaining, make sure to smash that like button for me, hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you all in the next one.